world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad and our ongoing investigation into video game film adaptations. I'm John Campbell. Oh man, he can't ever get too far from this investigation, can he? It's our lead investigator on this. Mike Gorgone is with me.
John, I had to come back for the tippity top, the pinnacle, the platform, the plateau, if you will.
Yeah. Prince
We've
of
done
Persia?
it. We've surmounted. We've climbed the mountain, we've gotten to the top, and from here, it's just a quick tumble down this hill.
I gotta say, I think this might be the best movie I've watched so far, and it's not a good movie. But I do think, like, from an objective filmmaking standpoint, we were also just talking about before, this is 2010's Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. And I think I can confirm this now, the most expensive movie I have watched or will watch this season.
Or any season, perhaps.
No. Disney lost weight. Because, okay, that actually opens up the thing about this movie. This is from Disney. And this is now, I believe, if you take into account, if you listen to the past season about pulp character adaptations.
I see, okay.
And now this, you will get the entire story of Disney trying to find their next Pirates of the Caribbean.
There is a loose trilogy of episodes that includes this, Lone Ranger, and John Carter, correct?
Yeah. And I believe each one of those increasingly cost more money, with this being the least.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because, like, Lone Ranger is like $300 million. It's some insane amount of money that is just...
You gotta crash a train, John.
I mean, I will say, that is one of the worst movies I've ever seen that has the greatest third act in the history of film, though, somehow. I don't know. The action set piece with the train is unbelievable. Oh, I'm sorry. It only cost $250 million.
Oh, okay.
And it made $260 million.
Yikes.
You
know that is not adjusted for, like, marketing price and everything.
And John Carter...
Definitely...
John Carter was also $250.
Yeah, in both of those films, there's toys sitting on the shelf somewhere that are just waiting to get buried.
I think I said this on the Lone Ranger episode, and I swear we'll get back to Prince of Persia. I worked at a comic book store. You remember this? About 3 years after Lone Ranger came out, and we still had Lone Ranger figures that we literally made like 90% off at one point. They were still there when I left that comic book store.
Nobody still there to this day.
Yeah, nobody wanted that shit. Nobody wanted that. But anyway, here's Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, the most successful of these three attempts by far, actually.
We'll get to it at the end, obviously, in terms of box office returns. But like, this movie did okay. I remember
it did, yeah. But certainly not well enough that they immediately canceled all their plans to make this. And this is the actual quote: the next Disney Ultra franchise.
Is that what they called Pirates of the Caribbean?
They said this was going to follow Pirates of... Literally, there's a quote from somebody at Disney. I don't know exactly who is quoted saying it.
Or something.
One of the top tippy top guys there, who said, "Where is this here? Yeah, with Disney, it's going to be." I don't know if they actually credited anybody. Disney just in general described it.
The vague entity that is the Disney Corporation.
The Ultra franchise, that they were going to make. The studio could ensure the film leads to a mega franchise similar to Pirates of the Caribbean, but they used the word mega franchise. That's with a hyphen. That didn't happen. So that's what I'm saying is this movie did do okay, and actually, according to what I read about, ultimately did even better on home video, because there was some attempt by some of the creators involved to go, hey, look at what the sales and rentals are. We should try to make a sequel. And they were like, no. But this was meant to kick off a whole, at least, trilogy.
Well, sure, you don't give the subtitle of the film without any kind of precedent. Though they do that because this is like riding on the popularity of the 2003 video game, which is why we're talking about this film.
Absolutely. I mean, that Prince of Persia goes way back as a video game franchise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Prince of Persia is one of
1989.
My favorite platformer series, like, of all time, and Sands of Time is like the tippy top of that.
I was saying to you, I believe Sands of Time is the only one I've played. I think. I mean, it's possible I played some of the earlier ones sporadically, like at someone else's house. I never had them.
Right.
But
so
the original.
To give you a brief history of the video game, the original video game came out in 1989. It was made primarily by a guy named Jordan Mechner, and he has stayed associated with this franchise up until about this movie.
I believe he still has a writing credit on the movie. I think he
has a story credit on
because
this film,
he did actually write the first draft of the screenplay.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the last thing he has to do with this franchise, The Prince of Persia, is this movie. So make of that what you will.
He wrote the comic book prequel to this movie.
He wrote the comic book prequel to this movie. He also wrote a graphic novel called Prince of Persia, which has nothing to do with this movie, but is really good. And
That's
it is like a
interesting.
dueling temporal narrative of two princes of Persia.
Fascinating. Yeah, he did do that. That was in 2008. But then he wrote, Prince of Persia Before the Sandstorm was the tie-in prequel to this.
And can tell you this much, never read that book. The last game he was associated with was The Sands of Time. Or the last Prince of Persia game, I should say.
Because I mean that's and that would be generally considered the gold standard of the franchise, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know the Two Thrones has its defenders, and I'm among them.
Sure,
Warrior Within is.
I'm not saying any of those are bad, but it does seem like I hear people who aren't even fans of this franchise talk about Sands of Time as just one of the best games. Period.
Yeah, it's a game that I played so obsessively that and I can't make this claim for almost any other video game, that I could reliably speedrun that game and new shortcuts and stuff that would let me do it as quickly as possible. I played that game so much, it's kind of ridiculous. Warrior Within was the butt rock sequel. The Two Thrones was the capper on the trilogy that tried to mesh the two tones of the franchise. Then we had a kind of reboot of the franchise in 2008 that was just called Prince of Persia. That was sort of it was a straight up reboot of the franchise. It had tonal similarities and certain themes and ways the story worked, but terms of the reversing time element was totally gone.
I'm looking at the Prince of Persia game, the timeline of the game releases. There are way more of these games than I thought. The fact that one came out in 2024, I had no idea.
So 2024, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, I was getting to this, is actually considered it is a very good game. It's more of a roguelike Metroidvania style game. Lots of platforming elements.
See that,
some pretty fun combat. I really liked Lost Crown. Lost Crown felt like the first really good Prince of Persia game in a long time.
I have not played it, and apparently there's a remake of Sands of Time in the works.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that one.
Okay. I feel like there's a remake of any famous game somewhere in the works, somewhere, right?
We skipped over, but in 2010 there was Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, because after the 2008 reboot, everyone was like, we're not really feeling it. Everyone likes Sands of Time. What if we just did a in-between-quel?
And I gotta say, I'm looking at that right now, which what was that 2010? So the same year as this movie?
Yup.
Oh, this guy looks a hell of a lot like Jake Gyllenhaal on the cover.
Yup. That was kind of why the Forgotten Sands fell on its face a
little
bit.
Not directly connected to the movie, but at least meant to be somewhat parallel to the movie.
Yeah, it's
or to
fine.
Cash in on the movie, I should say.
Yeah, and it was definitely look, the movie's coming out. We got to have a game coming out at the same time, right?
And get ready, because you're about to meet the new mega franchise. Once again, this thing didn't come out and bomb, but it didn't do what they want. It didn't set the world on fire. None of them did. I think the thing that I find so funny, and I talked about this on the John Carter and Lone Ranger episodes, the lesson Disney learned from all these attempts is, we should just take our money and buy franchises that are already successful. Because pretty quickly after John Carter, they buy Star Wars.
At what point do they stop trying to get back to pirates, though?
I think what they do is, that's that point. Oh, when do they stop making pirates movies?
Because Dead Men Tell No Tales was the last one they made.
It's all roughly in that same time period. I feel like
2010 to 2013, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's in that range where it's like that has died down. We're not giving up on it yet, but we're realizing we need something else. Sure. God, Dead Men Tell No Tales was 2017. That's way later than I thought. And that was met with a distinct, complete lack of interest.
Sure. I never saw it.
I did. It's fine. I don't know. All of them are
the same way this movie is fine.
Yeah, I find all of, even the 4 and 5, I find the pirates more charming than this movie. This movie really, the biggest thing to me about this movie, which is, yes, aggressively fine and is better than John Carter or and I know that's gonna piss off, I don't know if it'll definitely piss off the Jones boys who way stood up for that movie.
I stand up for John Carter too.
I find I let me say, maybe they're about on par. I find both of them very boring. I just never get invested. And the Pirates movies at least stayed kind of fun. This movie distinctly lacks fun, while also you can watch it trying to be fun. The thing about all of these movies, actually John Carter the least, but definitely this and Lone Ranger expressly so because it's literally made by all the people who made Pirates. But these feel like they are trying to go, throw in a little of that. That worked in Pirates. I really think all the Alfred Molina stuff, that guy's 100% a Pirates of the Caribbean character in this.
Oh, for sure. He is a two-timing, tax-dodging ostrich racer.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be like, oh, what a lovable scamp!
He's a lovable scamp.
And Molina's having a good time. I mean, look, here's another thing that's kind of sad about this movie. Pretty much everyone who's in this movie is a very good actor, and a lot of them are doing really bad work here.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I turned around and realized that Richard Coyle was playing the older Persian prince here, Jake Gyllenhaal's older brother, I was like, hold on, distinguished English character actor Richard Coyle, who I know best from certain Discworld properties, is playing elder Persian statesman.
If you look at this guy's IMDb, this guy is the BBC. You know, he is a very well thought of British actor who's not super famous to Americans, unless you're people like us who are, kind of Anglophiles. I watch a lot of that.
We've got Toby Kebbell, who's famous, can't get a franchise started guy.
And it's never his fault. He's a good actor, but time and time again he ends up in the worst stuff. Oh man, fire your agent.
He played Duratan in Warcraft, which we'll talk about later this season.
Oh, yes, we will.
He played melted action figure Dr. Doom in Fantastic Stick.
Not his fault again.
He did play Koba in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
That's
his rules, but you kind of lose him
in
the performance of the ape.
It's an astounding performance, though. He's exceptionally good. And I would say the other thing people always point to as his best work is his episode of Black Mirror is amazing.
Totally. He was solid in Kong Skull Island
as both one of the soldiers and doing the mocap for Kong.
Yep.
Hurricane Heist was one of the few ones that was his vehicle. He is the main guy in Hurricane Heist, which I find fun, but is incredibly stupid.
Because they're having a heist during a hurricane.
And I'll just say this. It has a scene where because he's a storm expert in it, right? And he is able to track the wind pattern to be able to throw something and calculate how the wind will knock it into the bad guy. But that's pretty fun.
Sure, but that's an X-Men power.
No, it's very stupid. And once again, yeah, I never watched Servant. That was M. Night Shyamalan's Apple show, but he was in all of that, and I think that was mildly successful.
He's got a season on what's the Apple show with the alt history?
For All Mankind. Yeah, he's on there now. He's kind of become like the new lead on that now. It's because as time goes forward. Once again, I've always really liked him. He's great in Rock and Rolla, the Guy Ritchie movie. I mean, once again, another kind of a little bit like Richard Coyle is if you look at all the British stuff he's done, he's really good. He's a super talented guy. And then we put, the only other one that he's also in other.
Oh, but in this he just plays angry other Persian prince.
He's shitty brother, yeah. Good brother and shitty brother. But I will say he's also in. I'm realizing this now. What may technically be the one I haven't covered yet of attempts to start a new Pirates of the Caribbean, which is The Sorcerer's Apprentice. With Nicolas Cage. Remember that? That was supposed to kick off. That's the same year. He's in both of these in 2010.
Wasn't he the bad guy in that movie?
Yeah. Well, he and also actor in this, Alfred Molina, were the bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
I remember that movie being somewhat watchable, mostly for just, once again, Cage. Cage as a wizard is fun.
Having an unhinged wizard Cage in a movie is never a bad call.
Yeah, I remember seeing this movie in the theater and like somewhat enjoying it. I remember seeing this movie in the theater though, to be fair, and kind of enjoying it, I guess. But anyway, yes, Toby Kebbell is here doing nothing. He has nothing to do in this movie. Also,
occasionally he shouts and goes, "Rah, bring me his head,"
and then is like, then gets to die and go, "Sorry, you're actually all right, Jake Gyllenhaal."
That's what basically everyone in this movie does.
Sorry.
Except for Ben Kingsley.
I do think they are so quick to go after Dastan, who is... I mean, I want to get to Jake Gyllenhaal. We're going to have to talk to... We'll build our way to the Jake Gyllenhaal.
Talk about the Jake Gyllenhaal of it all.
We'll get there in a second. But I also want to talk about... Because just on the point of Kebbell was in both of those, how about the 2010 for Gemma Arterton? This and Clash of the Titans, same year.
Yeah, wasn't Toby Kebbell also in Clash of the Titans?
Was he? I mean, I wouldn't be
surprised. In Wrath.
He might
in one of the Titans.
He might have been in Wrath. Hold on. If he has a trifecta of like fail, because Clash of the Titans was, I guess, technically successful because they made. No, he's not in Clash of the Titans.
He's in Wrath of the Titans.
There you go. I gotta say, fire your agent, Toby Kebbell. Jesus Christ, I can't believe. My God, he's such a talented dude, and I always like go like, oh, Kebbell's really good, and then people go like, is he? Because look at all the movies he's in. I'm like, yeah, but watch the like BBC stuff he's done. He's great. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
And he's, I mean, as we talk about, like with the Kong and Planet of the Apes, he's part of that Andy Serkis, company of mocap actors so he does a lot of work you don't know he does.
Talk about people who like look at her British stuff and you'd
really
be shocked compared to her American stuff. Gemma Arterton, yeah.
Well, because this was firmly, and because I was going to say she might as well be the same character in this and Clash of the Titans. She's basically doing the same thing. She gets caught up in, and I think Keira Knightley had this too. I think a lot of these British actresses come over here, and obviously she's this stunningly beautiful woman. So they're like, "Great, that's what you do. Can you be hot girl in this thing?" Because she broke as a Bond girl, of course.
Be a little sassy because that's a thing in the Pirates movies.
Oh boy, I gotta say too, the writers of this movie, all I could think about every time she says anything is this all male writing staff is so proud of. They go like, we really wrote a strong female character because she's always sassing, but it's like, yeah, but she's not a character, and they have not an ounce of chemistry. It is painful to watch some of their scenes.
But John, what if she used her sexuality as a weapon?
Yeah. I, of course, know her, and I would be remiss if I didn't take just a quick step into 007 corner to talk about her playing Strawberry Fields in Quantum of Solace. She did die and get covered in oil in that movie, if anyone recalls.
Sure.
I also, similar to Toby Kebbell, have a dumb movie that she's in that I like, which is Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I mean, I was about to say that is the one I will double down on. Like
that movie's pretty fun.
End of her American stint.
Yeah, I think she just is like, get me back to England because they let me do things.
Because where she plays Gretel in the titular Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah,
Witch Hunters, between her and Jeremy Renner.
Talk about a movie
witches.
that where I was complaining about this movie not being fun. That movie's very fun. It's
because it takes its premise and knows just how like bonkers and silly it is.
It's like 80 minutes. It's hard R-rated. It's just pure. It never takes itself seriously, and that's what I love about it. Same thing kind of with the Hurricane Heist. A movie that knows it's called the Hurricane Heist. Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
This movie though is very serious.
Taking themselves too seriously. That is the inherent problem when you have Jake Gyllenhaal at the center of a film.
Well, I got to say, Jake Gyllenhaal is, I mean, I don't think anyone would question one of our finest actors. Like, definitely.
He's a charming, beautiful man
yeah.
who is great in a lot of things that he's in.
But he's also like a serious actor.
He's also like weirdly a character actor.
Yeah, that's right. It's like he's a guy who, and I see this. We've seen this with a lot of actors, where Hollywood is like, Look at this guy. Look at that guy's a star.
He's so pretty.
But then they're like, what do we do with him? Because he was a guy who was up for everything. He auditioned for Batman. He auditioned for. He was the second choice for Spider-Man. He auditioned for Superman, and it was always like. This and it almost just felt like Hollywood being like, well, it doesn't make any sense. He should be one of these things. And this movie always felt to me like, okay, he'll be that. He'll be the Prince of Persia. That'll be his thing.
But it's so wild that like because he breaks in 2005 with Brokeback Mountain and Jarhead, like back.
And and two very serious adult dramas,
Following that up in 2007 with Zodiac, of all films.
Oh, my God. One of my favorite movies. Legitimately one of my absolute favorite movies. And he's amazing in it. And, you look at his work, it's all very serious stuff. Aside from, Bubble Boy, which I don't count because that's super early in his career, obviously. But, his first major leading role was October Sky, which is a great movie.
Is it October Sky or is it Donnie Darko?
I mean, the Donnie Darko.
October Sky, sequentially happens first. Yeah, you're right.
But both of those
Donnie Darko, puts him,
he's on the poster.
Donnie Darko is a cult movie, I guess. Yeah. But I like October Sky just fine.
That's one of those movies that makes me cry because it's about guys following their dreams, and that dream is science.
I love it because Laura Dern is a plucky teacher who wants her boys to do good.
Well, I just like that he earns the respect of Chris Cooper, his father. It's like, you build them rockets, son. I guess Day After Tomorrow was kind of a big budget, but that's not it's not like Jake Gyllenhaal in Day After. That's one of those Roland Emmerich movies where there's 18 main characters.
The real main character is the fact that we can stuff newspaper into our clothing to survive a flash freeze. Because of ancient hobo wisdom.
Talk about another stupid movie that I don't hate, though. But yeah, anyway, this was definitely meant to be all right. And so much of the press, of course, is about, and check out the bod. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
Jake Gyllenhaal went to the gym. And you're just and that's about as much of a character.
An ancient warrior costume with a couple of swords.
He looks good. He looks good on the poster. He makes an action figure. But my God, this could be the worst performance I've ever seen from him.
Can Jake Gyllenhaal do smarmy?
Yes, but it's Mysterio. It's a different brand of it. But I think Mysterio is okay, that's a perfect. Or have you seen Ambulance? I'm guessing no.
No.
He's wonderful in Ambulance. But those he gets to be weird in those. Those are big budget action movies where he gets to be odd in them. And he's like the villain.
The tone they're trying to capture with Prince of Persia is the tone from the game, where you have this cocksure young man who, through a series of events, causes some kind of disaster, gets his hand on the dagger of time, and at this point, the plot of the two things go in wildly different directions.
Yeah.
The plot of the game, I do briefly just want to talk about the plot of the Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, the game.
Yeah.
Because part of my rewatch of this film now, 15 years after
both of us, you and I saw this in the theater together, also with fellow co-host Michael Lissman, who I think briefly touched on that last week when I said we were doing this. And neither one of us has ever watched. Have you ever watched this again?
No. God.
No. So neither. But both of us came out of it going yeah, it's so weird. I do think back. We weren't psyched, but we were yeah, I guess that's probably about as good as these are going to get.
And look, up until like fairly recently, maybe not wrong.
Because I do think the thing that makes this, when I was saying I think this is the best one I've watched objectively, is just like this has resources and like people backing it in a way that I haven't seen from one of these movies before. This is a major summer tentpole from the biggest movie studio and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. I'll talk about in a second after you're done the insanity that this is directed by Mike Newell, who's a very weird choice.
Yeah.
But go ahead. The plot of The Sands of Time, the game.
It's drafting on The Sands of Time, which is, again, released like 7 years before this. It's a critically acclaimed video game.
Oh, yeah.
But it has an incredibly simple story.
They all
this
do.
Movie absolutely does not try to engage with at all. It is, we start with Prince of Persia at the head of his dad's army. Okay, great, cool. He conquers a place kind of at the behest of the evil vizier. Cool, okay, kind of on the same track.
Yep.
Then Prince unwittingly unleashes the Sands of Time. Everybody dies except for him and the princess who's also in the castle. And the whole story just takes place in this one, admittedly very elaborate castle that you're trying to wind your way through, surrounded by sand monsters. The prince is by himself a lot of the time, and he occasionally meets up with the princess. They begrudgingly form an alliance to try to reverse what he accidentally did, and he learns a lesson about humility and trying to like turn back the clock so that he can fix the mistakes that he personally has made, and has what we like to call a character arc.
Well, I was going to say, the thing about that is I can see both sides of that where like I could totally see expanding the scope of that. But ignoring that is such inherent stakes of I have to go back and fix a thing I did is not ever really in this. He is so purely just hero guy in this movie.
Yep, 100%.
He never really makes a mistake beyond trusting the wrong people.
It immediately undercuts the like stakes of the hero's journey, right? Whereas this hero is basically always right the whole time.
I mean, I love all the early scenes where it is just the king of Persia going, "Oh, and Dastan, so much better than my biological sons, right? This guy rules. He's the coolest. He's the best. I wish he could be king."
Admittedly, it also suffers from certain video game problems of like the prince in the video games never has a name. He's always just referred to as the
I was
prince.
wondering that. Yeah, I think I did kind of remember that being the case. No, I mean, like I said, there are things to change, but the idea that, like, how could you just miss that very classic, great setup of, like, a core for him as a character that gives him something to fight for, that gives him something to go with. Like I said, it gives the audience stakes. We are going through this with him. Instead, he's a non-entity. The thing about Gyllenhaal being bad in this to me is, like, anyone could have been this guy. You get any buff dude and they could have been Dastan.
So long as they have like a cocksure grin and a like, "will excuse me, princess" attitude.
But yeah, I gotta say, that is not a natural fit for Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal is weirder, and he is, like a lot of my favorite actors, I put Gosling in this camp too. These are super handsome guys who are dying to be weird. Pattinson, another guy like that too.
Yeah.
They just want to be strange.
I could see a Gosling more in this role.
Well, Gosling,
he's got a little bit more swagger.
Well, Gosling is fun. I mean, and Gyllenhaal can be funny as well. But yeah, sure. Gosling is. The other thing Gosling can do really well is Gosling can be dumb. He can be like bro. Like you think about him in Barbie or in the criminally underseen The Fall Guy. Just America, you failed The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy is so good. But like he could be. If you want, you would need a better script.
The Fall Guy is honestly like kind of the perfect tone for the Prince.
But I'm talking about you would also need to write a script that is about him having to learn humility, right, or something like that. But he can play cocky asshole that you still like, but are like, dude, you gotta come on, man, you gotta change your ways.
What does Dastan learn in this film?
Nothing, because it's all just. At the end of the movie, it's just, oh, we should have listened to Dastan the whole time. I mean, actually, okay, his lesson is actually you need to speak up.
Okay.
Isn't that the lesson, right? The thing about because he also,
I genuinely don't know.
I think that is the lesson. But I will just say the thing he needs to speak up about. Is this weirdly a criticism of the Iraq War? Because there's the whole thing about we're going into this
your advisors thing.
Because we're going into this other city because they are making weapons for our enemies, and then there's all this stuff about we're still looking for the weapons but haven't found them. And I just was watching this going, that is such a weird choice for this movie. It's unavoidable.
9 years later, it's a indictment on our invasion of.
Like,
I mean,
it just
honestly, kind of.
It's every time they're talking about like we still haven't found those weapons, they're like, well, we'll keep looking. I'm just going like, God, that's a weird thing to include in this ostensibly family adventure movie from Disney. Like, what?
Is Ben Kingsley's character Rumsfeld or Cheney?
I think he's Cheney.
Okay.
And I think that makes the other brother Colin Powell. Because he has to be the guy going like, no, it's true. But because the whole thing is just, it's the father, the king has a line to Gyllenhaal where he says, good men know when, he's like, you are a good man, and good men know when, the wrong, it's something, I'm paraphrasing.
When to trust their heart, yeah.
Right. But great men know when to, like, speak up or something like, because basically the whole thing is like, you have a feeling that's wrong, but you feel also like it's not your place to say that. And a great man would say the ethics should come first. And so that's basically what it is he gets to go back in time. But the other thing that doesn't work about that is he also gets to go back in time with the knowledge that specifically I 100% know Ben Kingsley is behind this. And of course he is, because he's Ben Kingsley.
He's Ben Kingsley, who is A, bald, and B, has the thinnest goatee you've ever seen.
Oh, always, man. And here's the thing. Once again, pretty much like everybody, I love Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley is an amazing actor. And is...
Please, John.
Sir Ben Kingsley. I have heard about you. He is a guy that makes you... He will correct you. A prickly dude also, from what I gather. Not the easiest guy to work with. Super talented, but definitely is very, very serious about his craft.
Remember when we thought it was okay that he played Gandhi?
Hey, man, he had some Indian blood somewhere. Okay. I've heard him be like, no, I am somewhat related to the... And you're like, okay. Anyway, sure. An amazing actor who is, as always, even when he's in shit, great, totally sincere.
And he's in a lot of shit.
And I think we've always talked about this on all the shows, that those British actors, as prestige as they are, also are very acutely aware that this is a business and you are working for money.
Sure.
And that isn't like a thing to hide from. Because I don't think I can't imagine he was out there going, oh, Prince of Persia, what a script, It's like, this allows me to go do Richard III on stage for no money, right? Like,
no, they gave me more drugs.
God damn him. I'm so excited that he's going to be in Wonder Man as well. I can't wait for that. That does seem like he does have fun in those movies. I think he does really enjoy playing Trevor Slattery
of it all.
Yeah. Because I think that he gets to play probably a guy he knows very well too, right? Like a boozy British thespian is probably he's run across those guys. Anyway,
when does Wonder Man come out? December?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can't wait. That looks like so much fun. But yeah, he's doing his work here. Ronald Pickup, which is a great name, who plays the king, just doing solid British king acting.
So many Brits here playing ostensibly people of like Persian,
but they're British, descent. And then that's going to lead me to my next thing about Gyllenhaal. What is this accent? It is
vaguely
kind of British,
foreign.
I call it an adventure accent. It's an adventure movie accent. It's the same accent that Brad Pitt uses in Troy, where you're like, what is this? Are you supposed to be British in this? It's just like, I don't know. Because it's like, and I think Troy is a similar situation where they are American actors surrounded by Brits who are all just using their accents. And so there's some sort of like, well, I guess I should kind of British it up. It's also a thing in fantasy films, right? you
yeah.
always just default to British. Everyone in Lord of the Rings is vaguely British. You know, everyone. I'm sure when we talk about Warcraft, everyone is probably vaguely British in that. If I haven't seen
Not the orcs, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I'm sure all the knights are, right, and stuff like that, right?
The fantasy coded good guys are like British sometimes,
Which is very funny because then when you go to Star Wars, the bad guys are coded British, right?
right. Yeah.
But it is just sort of a thing of everyone. Also, we're royal. We have a royalty to our voice, so it's sort of here.
I think that speaks to a certain level.
But it's bad. Whatever Gyllenhaal's
Americanisms.
doing is, I think it's hurting his performance. I wish he wasn't.
Sure.
doing that.
Oh, of course. I mean, look,
He's struggling.
nothing
through
Gyllenhaal's
that.
doing is strengthening his performance, other than being ripped and pretty.
I mean, God, he looks amazing. Of course, I will say. Here's my, and I do this sometimes on the show. This is not a regular segment, but don't watch this. Watch Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal. If you want to see Jake Gyllenhaal be ripped, and the movie is a fucking blast.
Okay.
The Roadhouse remake that is now getting a sequel. This didn't take off, but his franchise has become Roadhouse. Who saw that coming?
Nobody.
Yeah, but it's super fun, and he actually gets to play. You get to see why he likes that, because that guy's like super broken and dark, and like you're like, oh yeah,
Sure.
that's what he likes. And he's also ripped and punches dudes. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, it is just like everything is. This movie cast Gyllenhaal and then asks him to do none of the things that make him a good actor.
Yeah. Which again, I think is a product of, well, this is clearly a leading man who's very.
Yeah.
Need to put him in a franchise, and that worked so well for Orlando Bloom twice.
Which, by the way, Orlando Bloom was the first person offered the lead in this.
Oh, poor Gyllenhaal. Oh no.
But I gotta say, that makes so much sense. And also it makes sense that he would be like, no, I can't be another guy with a sword. I can't, right? Like, it's gonna kill me. Because he had done, at this point, he had done the Lord of the Rings, Pirates, and lest we forget Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven.
Ooh, I do love me a Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh, especially if you see the director's cut. Legitimately, like a fucking masterpiece. Kingdom of Heaven is so good. Yeah, so I do think he was like, please, no more guy with sword. Yeah, Orlando Bloom and
10 years, we'll back up that Hobbit money truck, and you'll come crawling back.
Oh, yeah. Orlando Bloom, another guy who's a very good actor, but Hollywood would never have you know that. Because actually, like I said, I think his best movie is Kingdom of Heaven, and no one saw it. Oh, God.
As a Carnival Row defender, I agree with you.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. I mean, he's done some BBC stuff, and yeah. Zac Efron was the other guy in the running for this, which also, just visually, he and Gyllenhaal are a similar type.
They're of a similar cut, yeah.
Yeah. And he was a Disney guy, of course, Efron, so that makes sense.
Now that we've discussed all of the British people who are in a movie called Prince of Persia.
There's not a single Persian person in this movie.
That is one of the most fucked up nuggets at the center of this film.
There is not a single, at least not in any of the lead roles, there's not a single person of Middle Eastern descent, period. Not just Persian.
I can't speak to Steve Toussaint, who plays the knife-throwing guy.
He's not Middle Eastern. I can tell you that.
I mean, fair enough.
Because in the trivia,
in the
there's
film,
a fact
he plays somebody from Africa, but I don't know where he's from. And
he's British.
Oh, of course he is.
They're all British, really. Like the entire cast is British except Jake Gyllenhaal. Really, all the main characters are English.
Let's see. The only other guy that gets a speaking role is the assassin leader, who is played
He's British.
Gisli Orngardason.
Oh wait, no, not that guy. I thought you were talking about Biz.
No, that's the prince's best bud.
Yes, that guy's also British.
Goes, Prince, you're here.
And this guy was born in Iceland, but spends most of his time in England, so I'm going to call him British, the guy you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, even though he's technically Icelandic, he's a Brit.
Okay.
Yeah, Brit by, culture or whatever. Yeah.
Brit by resume.
Yeah. What about Claudio Pacifico?
Claudio Pacifico plays the dart shooting assassin.
Okay, he's Italian. And he is primarily a stuntman.
He has 0 lines.
And he is primarily a stuntman, which makes sense. including on the John Wick
choice to call
movies.
these things Hassansons
Yeah.
is just so needlessly complicated.
But I thought they
In a
outlawed
movie
those,
that, like,
Gorgone. Didn't they stop those?
But like, okay, the word assassin has its root from hashashin, which is like a Middle Eastern like word.
But
that
we'll get into all that
evolved
shit when we
into-
talk about Assassin's Creed.
Sure. And look. But like they needlessly complicate it by giving them a slightly fantasized version of the name.
They did.
This, so it sounds like they're saying Sansons the whole time, like sands of time.
It definitely does, because you're also primed for that, because they say the word. By the way, this is a drinking game you should never play because it's deadly. Every time they say dagger and every time they say sand in this movie.
Oh, you would die
Instantly. The amount maybe like an hour-ish into the movie, I felt bombarded by the dagger. Where's the dagger? Hand me the dagger. I'm looking for the dagger. Has anyone seen the dagger? What's that dagger? And then the sand, not that sand, it's special sand. You just put any sand. Oh, here's the sand. There's the place where all the sand is. You're like, God damn it! Like,
so maybe we should talk about the plot of this film.
I guess. I mean, it's the plot is. Well, we open on the other thing I thought immediately, and I maybe I thought this is the time, but I'd forgotten, was the beginning of this movie. I was like, oh, so this was Disney making a live action Aladdin before they just literally did that, because the beginning is so Aladdin-y,
right down to the papyrus font.
Absolutely. Oh, and the needless like into a time a person is born of whatever it is. The generic.
And they shall be intertwined despite time and place by destiny.
And then I went like, what? What does that have to do with anything?
So,
I mean,
in the Prince of Persia games, there's this whole thing where the prince like goes and eventually destroys the sands of time, and that rewrites all of history. And so he and Farah have to reconnect. The princess is named Farah in the games. I don't know why they use a different name in this movie, other than maybe to be more cultural. No, they're played by British people. It's not a cultural thing.
By the way, I was thinking about that before we started recording. I'm like, everyone in this movie is white except for the one black guy. I have no other point to make than that's bad, so we can move on. Like, it's just like, that's not good, and everybody just didn't seem to care. So, Also,
I'm pretty sure in the game the princess is from where's the original place they conquer? And I don't think it knows. The sands are released inside like a Indian potentate's castle.
Because in the movie, the movie opens. Well, Dastan is a street urchin who saves this kid from being whipped, and the king is like, "Ooh, this guy's got grit. I like him.
Yeah,
I will make him my son." And right away, as if we needed to be surprised at all, who's the person they cut to? There's Ben Kingsley rolling his eyes at that, and you're like, "Oh, well, he's the bad guy."
Yeah, I mean, Ben Kingsley's constantly behind the shoulder of the king going.
No, I mean, it's just like the second also you're like, what is Ben Kingsley? If Ben Kingsley isn't the king, then he's the bad guy, right? Like, these are the only two things you would cast Ben Kingsley as in a movie like this.
Or washed up character actor who believes that the monkeys from Planet of the Apes actually rode horses.
The thing about that, though, is the genius of that is they cast him as what we thought was the villain. We all went, well, of course.
Yeah.
And so that was the great rug pull of that movie, which I still stand by is one of the boldest and coolest things they've ever done in the MCU.
Yeah,
it pissed off some people, but at the time I remember like, that is brilliant.
And the fact that it wasn't leaked and like no one saw it coming.
My jaw hit the floor in the theater, man. I really was like, holy God, Shane Black, you genius. Love that guy.
But yeah, so
so then we flash.
The whitest of the princes gets adopted by the king.
He's only slightly more white than the other princes.
I said whitest.
Yeah, he's only. I don't know what Toby Kebbell's background is. I know it's not Middle Eastern though, because once again,
Toby Kebbell is definitely the tannest of them.
Oh, and I will say that they don't go full brown face in this movie, but they did be like, make sure you get a lot of sun. Make sure this is the tannest Jake Gyllenhaal's ever looked. Mm-hmm. This is not full hate crime, but
it's not. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. The film Gandhi, starring Ben Kingsley.
Hey, man, he has some Indian ancestry, and he will flip shit if that's brought up.
I know. I'm just ragging on.
I know. I just love the idea that he's like, I have some.
That movie won.
I have some. I will say I have a Toby Kebbell quote here, which is Prince of Persia. just didn't turn out to be what I thought it was going to be.
Good on him.
Yeah. There's a Jake Gyllenhaal quote, actually, from when he was promoting Spider-Man, because that was the first time he had really come back into this kind of blockbuster world. And he did say this movie really taught him a lot about saying no. Because I'm sure this was a situation, too, where you're talking about Hollywood is thinking, here's a leading man, he's a franchise. And I'm sure his management and stuff was like, Jake, you got to get your franchise going. Yeah, the Oscar stuff is great, but, right, you know. And so I'm sure he was, at least on some level, been like, I guess, sure, yeah, I see what you mean.
Be a certain amount of like cultural peer pressure of just like, if you want to be a leading man, you got to try to be the leading man. If you don't take those swings.
Where's your action figure movie, right? Where's the movie that's going to get an action figure made of you? And they did put out action figures for this movie. And I'm sure they're sitting in a bin somewhere. They're buried underground somewhere with the E.T. Atari game.
There are some very good action figures made of the video games.
Sure. Absolutely. I just want to see, because I don't even remember seeing these action figures. But they according to the Wikipedia, they did.
I remember seeing
there they are.
Like replicas of the dagger.
Yes, they did sell those. I mean, actually, the action figures were made by McFarlane, so they're good. It looks just like Jake Gyllenhaal, but
sure.
I don't want a Jake Gyllenhaal action. I would much rather have a Nightcrawler action figure than I would a fucking Prince of...
That's you, John.
Oh, I love Nightcrawler so much. Another one of my favorite
but like,
movies.
What a weird person you have to be to like, I want a action figure of the weird, scummy paparazzi guy.
Yeah. Great movie. I want a source code action figure. By the way, that's the better Jake Gyllenhaal time travel movie.
Oh boy. Okay. So they invade a city. They shouldn't have.
They invade a city. There. It's just there to be, hey, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's doing a lot of posing in this movie. It's a lot of, God damn, is he hot? You know.
We need an action sequence in the first 20 minutes. Is what this is.
There's the cool thing where the guy shoots the arrows up for him to grab each one as it's being shot. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, the like cool kind of proto Assassin's Creed dive he does off the tower.
Very much so. I mean, the movie. Let me talk briefly then about the fact this movie is directed by Mike Newell, who is, yes, you guessed it, a British filmmaker, but is also, like Gyllenhaal, like a drama guy. Like his most famous movie. Well, let's see. Had he already done a Potter at this point?
It's Donnie Brasco, right?
Donnie Brasco, which is a movie I also adore, but is a talky gangster movie. And Four Weddings and a Funeral is what broke him big. Which is, that's a rom-com, a beloved rom-com. I think, when he had done Pushing Tin, which is a movie no one talks about, but I like, about air traffic controllers. Once again, character drama, Mona Lisa Smile, movie about Julia Roberts as a teacher. And then
he'd already done one of the Harry Potters at this point.
That's what got him this, obviously, right? Is that but even Harry Potter isn't an action franchise, you know what I mean? Like,
Goblet of Fire is probably the actioniest of them, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, that was the outlier. He had also done several episodes of the Young Indiana Jones TV show, which I guess is, adventure-y. But even like, what does he make after this? He does an adaptation of Great Expectations. It's like right back to, that's what I do. Reading all the quotes from him about this movie, he seemed to be like, yeah, that sounds fun. I haven't done that, and I want to work with Jerry Bruckheimer. My actual favorite quote from him, though, is he had his assistant play the game and tell him about it.
Oh, boy.
Which is so... I never played it, but I told my assistant, which I gotta say, I wouldn't mind being Mike Newell's assistant. Go play this Prince of Persia game and tell me what it's all about.
So...
I know a guy who played it.
The main gimmick of that Sands of Time game is the fact that you can rewind time to undo your fuck-ups.
An ingenious thing. And I remember that blowing me away when that game came out. What a cool idea for a video game.
How many times do they do it in this film? Twice?
Yeah, three. I was going to say
3 times if you count the big one at the end?
Yeah, because, there's the one that establishes it where he does it kind of accidentally.
Uh-huh.
What's the other one?
There's the one where he takes out all the snakes, and there's the
Yeah.
ones where his brother does it after he kills himself.
Yes, and then the final one at the end, but that's because they're in the like time chamber.
Right, with the hourglass, which is just a big rock thing that glows.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have to get it back to its source or whatever, right?
Here's the thing. There is like a deep, weird, twisted canon to like the origins of the Sands of Time in the video games. I'm not going to go into it because we could be here all day.
Right.
But like they make up a new like where the Sands of Time comes from for this movie, obviously, because no one's paying two shits about like the canon of the Prince of Persia franchise.
Right. And I mean, and like, you know, you don't have to be slavish to that stuff, but like we talk about when you're making changes that are sillier than the video game, what are you doing?
Or needlessly more complicated.
Yeah, more.
In the video game, it's literally a big ass hourglass with things in it that are sparkly that are called the Sands of Time.
There's a quote
and
from
if
one
you
of the.
Open it up, everyone gets infected with weird time disease and turns into monsters you have to fight.
Which by the way, there's like none of that in this movie.
The closest they get is the assassins. And that's kind of lame.
Well, and you get, oh my God, they're in love with the, by the way, it's 2010, the random moments of slow motion just pissed me off.
Oh, the slow motion and the speed ramping, really.
Yep, big time on those.
When does 300 come out?
I want to say that's like 07. So, I mean, this is post 300.
Yeah.
06, 07,
and like
something like that.
There's some of that here as well, especially
Absolutely.
in the snapping camera moving through the city and like
300 really
scenes.
Redefined how to make like a sword and sandal movie, right? Like it just blew everyone away, and then because I think about the Spartacus TV show was very much an answer to that too. Yeah. I mean, like bordering on legally actionable.
Look at the poster for Spartacus season 1 and the poster for 300.
Yeah.
Huh.
It is.
They're clearly trying to like fool some people.
But like when people
box action films,
when people talk about Zack Snyder now with derision, it's like that was his blank check guarantor, right? Like that movie, nobody'd ever seen anything like it, and so there's definitely that he's still dining out on the 300 of it all.
Sure. I mean, look, 300. Say what you will about that movie. He took a comic book and he made it on the movies.
I mean, it's a gorgeous film, regardless of what you think of the story. Once again, I think it's just a beautiful film. And this is actually, this is a pretty good looking movie. I got to say, aside from a couple of my annoyances, I will say this is a glossy Hollywood epic.
Totally. And like, especially compared to some of the stuff I've watched earlier this season, I was like, oh, there's clearly some money on this screen. Like we've got an army sequence with tons of extras. We've got these like huge sweeping shots of the like Arabian desert and these big complicated like Babylon-esque cities. And
yeah. I mean, this is Jerry Bruckheimer. Here. This is Disney. This is Jerry Bruckheimer. I mean, this is as big as Hollywood gets.
Yeah.
But I will say critical reception, not great.
No?
34% Rotten Tomatoes score. Take from that what you will, but
yeah.
I mean, because it's very pretty, much like the main character. It's very pretty, but not a lot of depth there.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that this movie has like weirdly like 4 acts to it.
Yeah.
Kind of 5, honestly. And 2 out of those are we need an adventure set piece with Alfred Molina, and we need an adventure set piece with
all the Molina stuff.
Guys.
As much as I enjoy an Alfred Molina, all that stuff just grinds the movie to a halt. That's a whole different... You're just like, what movie am I in now when we're doing the ostrich race stuff? And the ostrich race stuff does feel like, we got the money, why not? Let's do it.
And like the prince gets this weird tone of just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell this princess to Alfred Molina so I can go about my business, get on my way. Like, he totally code switches to kind of like scoundrel, which he really hasn't been up to this point.
And then I also love
I guess a little bit. He like roughhouses with his men, and he like.
But like, what is he
doesn't
trying
want to
to
be responsible during the battle?
What is he trying to accomplish, right? Like, the whole thing is because what happens is the king gets murdered by acid poison?
Poison robes. He puts on robes, his skin starts to melt, and the robes are the things what killed him.
And everybody thinks it's Jake Gyllenhaal that gave him those robes.
Because he did give him those robes, but at the behest of his brother, who gave Jake Gyllenhaal the robes, not knowing that it was Ben Kingsley who gave the brother the robes to give to Jake Gyllenhaal to give to.
But I gotta say, Ben Kingsley, very bad murderer, because immediately his horribly burnt, like chemical burned hands are a dead giveaway. Wear some gloves, man. My God. Because I just love when I love that this is not good writing. When Jake Gyllenhaal's like, "Hey, wait, why are your hands burned?" And Ben Kingsley has to be like, "Oh, when I tried to grab the robes off your father," and then Jake Gyllenhaal goes, "No, I expressly remember you never touching those robes." Like, oh my God, the idea that he can distinctly remember someone not doing something, that's not good writing.
Yeah, there has to have been a better. I mean, this
thing smacks of.
It has an element of like super lazy murder mystery, right?
Yeah,
because you're trying to jam it on top of a globetrotting adventure film, which you can't. It's tough to do those at the exact same time.
This movie has 3 credited screenwriters, which means it probably has 14 screenwriters, and that's just the way Disney. I mean, Disney is always will bring in the money to do people doing punch up.
And that's on top of Jordan Mechner, like, writing the story tree.
The original draft that a lot of it got thrown out. But there is a lot of quotes about what you were talking about, reading some of the stuff about the writing of this movie, where they're like, we had to find a way to change it from an active narrative like the video game to a passive narrative like a movie. This is always a thing that drives me insane about studios. We see it a lot in comic book adaptations, too, where it's like, well, you're talking about a comic book. We're making a movie now. And you're like, those are different mediums, but they're not as different as you are making them out to be.
Yeah, and especially where video games are concerned. Like, okay, when you have something like Mario, the first Super Mario world, you're jumping to the right, you reach the flagpole, you do that a bunch of times, eventually you get a princess.
Yeah.
All right, you maybe have to beef that up a little to make a movie that makes sense.
Of course.
Maybe make it into an alternate reality where dinosaurs evolved into people. I don't know, just spitballing here.
Right.
But especially post, like, around the PS2 era, we started getting really critically acclaimed narrative-driven games, right?
Right.
And honestly, this started like before that, because you have RPGs going back to the Super Nintendo.
Of course, but at least the idea of like major AAA games.
Major AAA games that are presented cinematically, that like present themselves and tell stories in ways that people can like identify with and grip onto easily, because they're presented a lot like film storytelling.
People are invested, even if they're playing the game and levels of it. You know, they are invested in the narrative of them.
Right. I mean, Metal Gear Solid obviously is like a huge stepping stone where this is concerned.
And also things, Metal Gear Solid is a perfect example of this, are directly influenced by the storytelling of films.
Yeah. And Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is a big part of that like milieu in that era. In terms of like, it's telling this compelling character narrative while still being a fun run along the wall slashing at monsters with a sword game.
That's the thing, is like, yes, you do have to change things about it, because games aren't, in general, I would say, I'm sure people could point to, but they're longer. They tend not to be 3-act structures exactly like movies are. So I understand that, or like maybe you have to expand certain things, but like the idea, like we're talking about, like in this case, that you're ignoring key things that are just at the core of this story that are more once again, you can change anything, but if the idea is like, but wait, the game did that better, why would you change it just to be like, well, we are movies?
Yeah, exactly.
This is a movie, all right, guys, so we got to do this a different way, you know.
But like, they could have saved $50 million if it was a movie with just 3 characters.
They could have, and I would have expected them to at least expand on that, but there's no reason to get away from the core of what that 3-character version is, at the very least.
Yeah, because in the original like Sands of Time game, it's the prince, the princess, and the vizier are like the triumvirate in the game.
Sure. And in this case, you get like the aforementioned Jake Gyllenhaal buddy character, where you're like, what is this guy adding to the movie?
He's the guy that Jake Gyllenhaal can turn to and go, crazy, right?
Did he need two brothers? No. There's just stuff like
to go raw and the other to go.
But I will say, when you talk about this movie having like 5 acts and we're talking about all these characters, all of that is so Pirates.
Yeah.
Those movies have insane amounts of characters and subplots to their detriment, even as much as I enjoy them, most of them at least. But like they're very convoluted.
Has that whole sidetrack where they go to the Great Council of Pirates.
Which is great and super fun and works because I am very charmed,
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing that charming in this. Like, even the Alfred Molina stuff is like, there are other better movies where Alfred Molina does this.
Oh, I mean, look, we could just list Alfred Molina's whole career as
the
like,
best
movies better that Alfred Molina is in.
The best. And we could do the Ben Kingsley as well. Like, once again, these guys are legends, the best. But they can afford them. That you have a movie that can afford you to get the best, but that's like, what are you doing with them? What am I doing here?
The answer is not much.
Yeah, I mean, it just like Ben Kingsley has to be like, do you have to even direct a Ben Kingsley in a movie like this? He's just like, got it, evil guy. I'm calculating, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Are you saying I need to scheme? I need to use my scheming face.
I was shocked to find out this movie didn't come out in 3D because all the moments with like the blade on the end of the whip kind of stuff that's going wow, 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 wow. But it didn't come out in 3D.
Okay, the whip blade thing is expressly a reference to Prince of Persia 3, the Two Thrones, or the third one in the Sands of Time trilogy, I should say.
Yeah.
Man, it's really tough when they keep renaming the games as just Prince of Persia.
Right. It's
there have been 3 games that are just called Prince of Persia.
Yeah, that's the Halloween of the video game world.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But that like chain whip is a thing that like gets lanced onto his arm in the third game.
I mean,
when the sands are slowly consuming him.
It's a cool idea, of course. And like, the snakes are another 3D thing. When the snakes are popping out, he's grabbing them
right at you. Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, let's talk about the end of this movie because I do want all of this is in service of how mad I was at the end of the movie.
It was all a dream.
I mean, pretty much. Structurally, yes. The end of the movie is, by the way, him and Ben Kingsley are crawling around a giant hourglass.
Yeah, so they do a little bit of crypt raiding to get to the hourglass. The hourglass is just a big rocky pillar that has a bunch of glowy stuff in it. You got to jam the knife in there, and if you jam the knife in there, then you have infinite sand, and just like the end of the first game when you have infinite sand and you can fight the elevators full of monsters, except this time it's fighting an old man next to some rocks.
Because we should mention briefly the thing about we can't let Ben Kingsley get the dagger, because if he does, he will go back in time and not save his brother, the king, thereby making him king.
Did it feel like we were missing a flashback scene in this movie?
Well, because
they keep referencing this story that
they keep referencing story and this idea about they always tell it, and I'm like, do they? I feel like this is the first time hearing about it. It feels like that should have been your pre-credits scene rather than the stuff with Gyllenhaal, because who gives a shit?
Why does he need to be adopted?
I don't know. Because at first I thought,
just to sow an initial seed of mistrust between him and his other brothers.
I guess that's the idea, because like that will be part of. Also, can I talk about this? If his idea is to get the dagger and go back in time, why does he need to frame Jake Gyllenhaal? And then spend the rest of the movie whispering in the brother's ear, since he's king, to go after Jake Gyllenhaal. He's very big on like, I need Jake Gyllenhaal dead. But if your plan is to go back in time and undo all of this anyway, what does it matter? He just needs to get the dagger from him.
Because he has the dagger?
And he almost gets the dagger from him, but it's only because Gemma Arterton had stole the dagger from him that he doesn't. But Jake Gyllenhaal hands over what he thinks is the dagger at one point.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about the beginning of the movie. So, okay, Jake Gyllenhaal gets the dagger basically by coincidence. Somebody
Yeah,
is like running away with the dagger, and
because they're
again,
raiding
that's
this.
another thing
They're raiding
of the
this
games where
land. Yeah,
the, in the game the prince goes after the dagger because it's like the shiniest treasure in the sultan's vault, and if he gets that, he'll get the approval of his father, and that triggers the series of events that leads to the sands getting loose, right?
because the thing, yeah,
So
the
it's like
thing, right?
his hubris is what triggers all
The
of it.
thing is here once again they have unlawfully invaded because it's the Iraq War. They have unlawfully invaded this country. What is the name of the country they invaded at the beginning? Alamut.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's a holy city.
the holy city of Alamut, and because they've heard that they've been forging weapons for Persia's enemies, and so
Well, specifically, Ben Kingsley told them that's what.
yeah, everyone's just, once again. How do we not track this back to Ben Kingsley instantly? I've heard a rumor. So they raid that place, and in amongst the things that they find there is this dagger, and they're gonna give it to the brother, but then they're like, "Oh no, Jake Gyllenhaal, you can have this crazy dagger that's filled with sand." Because it's, I mean, for those who don't know, it's a dagger, and then the handle is like glass that's filled with sand, and it has a button.
There's a ruby on the pommel, and if you press the ruby, wind time backwards.
Which I gotta
but
say,
can only hold a minute's worth of sand.
I don't know a better way to do this. I'm not suggesting I have a solution to this, but every time they push the button, it makes it look really dumb to me. Just the idea that
also,
it just seems like a click it,
that you
like
have
a
to
click
hold the knife upside down.
Yeah.
Which, like, looks cool knife fighting, completely impractical if you're actually fighting with it.
Of course. So anyway, he
Fantasy guy
but like you
holds
talk about,
knife upside down.
he basically just gets, like you talk about, the dagger, because it's just like, I don't know, Jake Gyllenhaal, you want this?
But also, like, there's that whole scene on
but
the street.
Ben Kingsley expressly went there to get this,
where the older brother is like, "Hey, give me that fancy dagger." Ben Kingsley specifically says, "No, I think Jake Gyllenhaal needs to keep this dagger."
But if Ben Kingsley needs it, simple solution is going, actually, I'm going to take that dagger and time travel.
Well, he's got to get to the hourglass.
He
first.
still needs to get the hourglass. But why go through all? Your plan is needlessly complicated, Ben Kingsley.
Why not just kill all of them, and now he's the only royal left?
Well, I mean, that would be the simplest of answers, right? Yeah, I don't know. I did think, too, it's like, why does he need to go back to that specific memory? There's any number of times he can go back to, and he's already succeeded in killing the king.
Because he's looking for, like, a lifetime's worth of being the king?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but, like, in that version, does he go back and is he now the kid in this version?
He would start over because the story they tell in the movie is when Ben Kingsley and his brother were kids, they were attacked by a lion.
Right.
And the lion is about to kill the future king when Ben Kingsley, little kid, kills the lion. Hooray. Saves his brother. We do get a flashback of it eventually, but maybe the movie should have started with that.
I also love, one of my other favorite moments is where he's talking to, he goes, you know what my dad's favorite story always was? It's that story about you saving him as a kid. And Ben Kingsley does this thing where he's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe he told it sometimes. Like, no, it was his favorite. But Ben Kingsley's trying to be like,
all the time.
Ben Kingsley's trying to be like, I don't know if it was his favorite story. I mean, is it really that a memorable story? Oh God, he's onto my time travel plan. The big problem here, right, is the script, right? It's a sloppy screenplay.
Well, it's sloppy, and it's like it's trying to really ram home certain themes without like actually displaying a impetus to like play into those themes. It's stating the themes out loud, as in like we need to rely on family, except when we don't.
There's
this thing called destiny, except when there isn't. And we need to rely on our wits and our hearts, except when we don't.
We need to talk about Tamina, who's the Gemma Arterton character, our female lead, because she has a whole thing where she is part of a lineage of protectors of the dagger.
Yes.
She's very much Oded Fair.
Also were corrupted and became assassins at some point.
Yeah, I will say this movie does have a cardinal sin for me in any like fantasy movie or sci-fi movie, which is there's so much of people going, sit down a second, let me give you the whole mythology of this thing while we're, and just like, oh my God, another monologue about the history of a thing.
Which is so funny considering the whole framing device of the video game Sands of Time is, let me tell you a story. And it's the prince telling the story of what happened to the princess.
That's fine.
Because she wasn't there for it because he went back in time.
That's all fine. I mean, I could imagine a movie pulling that off just fine. But, I mean, and actually the end of this movie is that, right?
Kind of. Yeah.
I mean, or it's trying to set that up.
Sure. Let me tell you a tale.
Yeah, right. And it's just like done better in 50 First Dates. Kind of. But
done better in Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Done better in the video game. Yeah, I mean, this is just an inferior product. But yeah, so we get that because then we have to set up this whole thing that by the end of the movie, the film tells me he's fallen in love with her. Once again, I never feel their relationship ever at any point.
No.
They're two very...
She's constantly trying to literally stab him in the front and back.
That's the first time he uses the dagger, is that thing where he's like, oh, she tried to stab me, and I guess he inadvertently hit the button. And then is like, oh, wait, she's going to try to stab me, and I know it now.
Yeah.
But, well, yeah, because his land raided her land, and they took her as a concubine, basically. So, you know, not great. No. I understand her distrust of him. But anyway, but it all leads to this thing about she can destroy the dagger, but at the cost of her own life.
If she plunges it into a third tertiary rock that we learn about halfway through the
Yeah, that's the only way, because it's just like, well, if this is so powerful, then maybe no one should have it, so we should destroy it. But the only way to destroy it is to do, this gleep glop.
Because it has something to do with a prophecy, and there's gods back in the past,
which she can do, but that would sacrifice her own life. So he's like, no, I won't let you do that because I love you. And I'm just like, man, this movie is just ever trying to add these stakes,
But then it doesn't matter because the assassins steal the dagger anyway.
Yeah, and then you get the assassins. Assassins, and they're not as cool as the movie wants you to think they are.
Because again, they're the closest thing this movie gets to like the crazy awesome sand monsters from Sands of Time.
I can't believe in all the CGI fest of this thing that they didn't try to do some sand monsters.
Yep.
I don't get it, because what you get, I will say, CGI, obviously, there's a lot of money in this movie, so it's pretty good. But I will say, the scene where the whole temple is collapsing around him, not very exciting.
Yeah.
It just looks like CGI.
I think they did it a little bit better in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
They definitely did, which is a better movie than this. Say what you will, folks. Come at me. It's not the best Indiana Jones movie.
It does with the sand monsters that this movie could have also leaned.
What is that?
This movie's PG-13.
Yes, of course.
And the game is like T for teen.
Yeah. Which would be the basically equivalent.
There is some gruesome swordplay in that game, but it's fine because there's sand monsters and there's no blood.
That's true. That would be it. Because I will say, not that I would expect it because it is PG-13, but you can feel the bloodlessness of all the killing in this movie.
Oh, sure. Like, especially when you have like a Persian army invading a city, you would expect like heads on pikes at
I always think it's very tough to make a PG-13 sword and sandal movie, right? Because you're inherently talking about slicing through people.
Yeah. Yeah. Chopping heads off is hard to depict when you have to keep it under an R.
Right. You're just going like, it just lacks a visceral nature to it. You just... I get checked out. It's my same thing about PG-13 vampire movies. You're like, they're just kind of an inherently R-rated thing.
And look, can it be done? Yeah, absolutely. The Lord of the Rings movies exist.
Well, yeah, and the Lord of the Rings movies have that high fantasy gloss over them where because it's a weird thing. The second you make it orcs, I no longer feel like it's missing blood. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that would be the same thing if they were fighting sand monsters. I'd just be like, oh, well, yeah, they're made of sand, so...
Yeah, so we can chop heads off, we can cut arms off, and I'll be cool.
Yeah, I mean, you see stuff... It is possible to do it. It's just this movie, this movie's got a lot of tone problems too. Like it's very serious and then it's goofy, and then it wants to be high adventure, but then it also kind of wants to be postmodern, and then it also wants to be grounded and gritty, but then super magical, and you're just like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
They want you to be like Alfred Molina's a piece of shit, but then he isn't actually selling slaves. It's just so people get off his back.
But also he's like, yeah, damn the system, and I don't want to pay taxes, and
right.
Also I'm.
But then I'm also willing to put my life on the line to fight for Jake Gyllenhaal by the end of the movie, and you're like, why? That doesn't seem like it's in your character at all.
He dies for him, doesn't he?
I think so. Once again, it doesn't matter because he just comes back again. But
yeah, because time travel.
Because no one who actually dies in this movie dies because stakes. Death doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, also because they rewind time so much, Alfred Molina and what's the knife throwing guy's name?
They never meet. They never meet Destin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Sesso.
he's perfectly happy racing ostriches out in the desert.
I will say Sesso is the coolest seeming character in the movie.
Well, because his whole thing is like he's from a tribe in the center of Africa. Knives so good they can kill 3 guys with 1 knife.
Yeah, you're like, I like that. That's a guy. That's a character who would be in a movie I do like. This guy's on House of the Dragon. Never watched it, but apparently that guy's on House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon's okay.
I'm sure.
Remember
it's
how
fun.
in the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones you're like, when are they getting dragons? Do that in season.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it is just like we start at the Dragon's Factory. Yeah. And because this guy, once again, good character actor who I've seen in a lot of BBC shows.
Yeah.
He's also in, here's a movie that doesn't exist, Gorgone. The Mutant Chronicles.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, he's in that. That movie doesn't exist.
Oh, boy.
I remember.
Oh, yeah, he's in a couple of the Jurassic World video games as a voice.
Sure.
That's where I know his voice from.
Sure.
Jurassic Park Evolution, which is the like park building sim.
Yeah,
Of course, that's the kind of shit I'm into.
I was gonna say there's a reason I never played that because that sounds boring.
Yeah,
I never.
but you're building a park.
I mean that I will say from just a logic standpoint that makes sense as a Jurassic Park video game. Meanwhile, I know him from Line of Duty, one of my all-time favorite British cop shows. Line of Duty's so good. Their British internal affairs, as they always say, what do? We catch bent coppers.
Oh, okay.
It's the best. It's the
Chronicles.
best.
Boy, I don't remember this at all.
Oh, I think we definitely watched it together, though.
I'm sure we did.
That feels like a Redbox rental.
Roman and John Malkovich.
And it had mutant in the title. We were like, sold. Well, was this about mutants? Yeah, we'll watch it. So at the end of the movie, after plunging,
Punisher and Hellboy. Okay.
Oh goodness, movies don't get any better. I have seen a lot of garbage with both of those guys, who I do like. Yeah. I like both of them quite a bit, but they are both guys who are in a lot of trash. Despite once again thinking they're quite good actors. Anyway, so the end of this movie is the way to solve everything is that he gets the sand from the hourglass.
No, the way to solve everything is to go back in time.
Right, that's the thing, is he's able to break open the hourglass, thereby
that was always going to happen.
Thereby allowing him to go all the way back to the beginning of the movie. Because before we've only seen him time travel short distances, which is more like what a lot of the game is like that, where you just get to rewind for chance to change one thing.
To be fair, that is also the end of the first game. Is I rewind time all the way to the start so I can undo the mistake I made.
Right, but the thing about that, what you just described, is the mistake I made. So much more inherent character stakes in that. In this, I have to go back in time just to tell people, look out for Ben Kingsley.
To go, Jacques.
Yeah, I mean, that basically is it. So he goes all the way back to before they invade the Holy City.
Just after they invade.
Just after they invade, but before they've, raided the place fully or whatever.
Weird that he doesn't stop the actual raid.
No, so all those people who died in that are still dead. He's still got tons of blood on his hands.
He still is actually personally responsible for letting the Persian army into the city.
Basically a genocide happened. Whatever. It doesn't matter. And I'm still going to get with the girl from that village we destroyed. Cool, man. You're kind of a piece of
Yeah.
shit, actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, yeah, he just shows up and goes, "Hey, man, before we do anything, you should know Ben Kingsley's up to no good." And they're like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "No, I have proof of it. Check it out, man."
And Ben Kingsley, rather than playing it cool, says, "Damn, he's right. Trying to stab him."
He does turn into a Perry Mason villain. You're right, I did. I'm glad I did, and I'd do it again. Which is pretty funny to think that Ben Kingsley was going to take on Jake Gyllenhaal hand-to-hand in any capacity.
Right.
Yeah. Even Ben Kingsley in his prime, that would have been hilarious.
I mean, like, in the final boss of the game is, like, the evil vizier, right? And he's got magic, and he's basically...
Yeah. If
And
Ben
that's
Kingsley had
fine.
had some magic here, I could have seen that fight happen.
Sure. No, instead, Jake Gyllenhaal with 2 swords fights Ben Kingsley
This
with
movie-
a knife.
For being about a magical time-traveling dagger, is weirdly afraid to include magic.
The lack of usage of the titular sands of time in this
Is
movie
crazy, because you think about, there could be any number of fun things they could do with that.
I know you and I, one of our favorite time travel movies that like is an action time travel movie is Edge of Tomorrow, right?
One of the best ever, no question.
Yeah. And like the whole gag in that movie is that he's Groundhog's Daying his way through.
We've talked about this. It's not based on a video game, but it's one of the best video game movies in terms of using video game logic.
Yeah. It's based on a novel that is also a manga that
Yeah.
became a Tom Cruise movie of all things.
All You Need Is Kill, which is a badass title.
Hell yeah. But that movie uses the like perpetual resetting of things
Yes.
as like a quick, fun, momentous way of both editing the movie and telling the story. And think of what you could do with, okay, this guy has the ability to rewind a minute at a time. Think of all the wacky situations he could get into for just a minute and then reset.
Because one of the things you're talking about, The Edge of Tomorrow does really well, and I think one of the reasons why it's so popular with people is it uses it for comedy a lot.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. This movie is shockingly not fun, and then when it tries to be funny, ooh, it doesn't work.
One of the best gags in the game is every time you like truly die in the game and like you don't have enough sands to rewind, the prince who's narrating the whole thing in theory is going, wait, hold on, that's not how this happened.
Yeah. I mean, the most fun thing they do with that is the part where he kills himself counting on his brother to reverse time. That is the most creative and interesting use of time travel in the movie. Because I gotta say,
thank God you used it.
There's nothing that bothers me more than a bad time travel movie, because time travel is one of my favorite things in fiction. Like, I am always on board for, is this movie about time travel? I gotta check it out. Love it. We argue about time travel. I was gonna say, you and I argue about time travel all the time.
I just want it to be consistent, is all.
I want it to be consistent within the movie. That's all that matters to me. Like, that's the thing, because, like, obviously, probably in my top 5 favorite movies of all time is Back to the Future. A movie that is consistent within itself, even though I know things in it drive you insane.
Yes.
But
same could be said for Looper. Again, a movie that...
Oh, maybe my second,
really
my second favorite time travel movie after Back to the Future is Looper.
But there's things in that movie that drive me up a wall. Then how did he...
So cool. So cool. I know, yeah, there's one scene in particular we distinctly argued about after seeing it that I think is a rad scene.
The guy's losing his limbs as he's
driving. Yeah, so then his foot goes away, and then his tongue is gone, and so good.
Yeah.
Great movie. By the way, Bruce Willis, did he love time travel? Because I'm realizing he did 12 Monkeys and Looper.
I think he liked getting paid.
Well, but those were ones where Bruce was trying. We always talked about the difference between.
That's fair.
Bruce is very invested in both of those.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so yeah, but at the end of the movie, he basically undoes the whole movie, so none of it really mattered. And he learns nothing, as you bring up, because that's the thing the game does. He undoes everything, but having learned something.
That's why it doesn't matter in the movie.
Right.
At best, the stretch that you came up with of he learns to speak his mind as the ultimate lesson
is like, yeah, that's kind of what they give lip service to.
Yeah.
But you're like, that's not a very impactful or visceral thing to learn, you know.
And you came up with that when I prompted you with the question. I consider myself a fairly media literate person, right? Like I talk about how I overthink like the
Yeah.
story elements of
But
movies. That's
but it
basically
was
the
me
whole purpose of
going,
our
I
podcasting
think
history.
there's one scene where a guy says something, and I think Gyllenhaal does repeat that thing about a great man knows when to make a stand or whatever. I think that's the movie going, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, that'll work.
But if I walk away from this movie going, and we've learned nothing.
Yeah. I would still argue that even if that is what he learned, that's next to nothing. That he should talk more? What? That's not very interesting. I don't feel that.
Don't change anything about your character or like, and I guess he's a little less rowdy at the end of the movie.
But like,
because by the end, the princess is saying like, "Oh, you've fallen in love with this city all of a sudden."
What's such an impactful storyline? A guy who's a little bit less rowdy at the end. That's a story worth telling. God, I'm a slightly better person. What?
And look, if this was the start of a planned franchise, maybe there is some larger character.
I gotta say, I do not see what the sequel to this would have been.
So the sequel to the game is Prince gets all dark and moody because the Sands fucked up his life so much. So he goes to the place where they started to try to destroy the origins of the Sands of Time.
Now, I will say the writers and producers of the movie expressly said they had no intention of adapting those next games.
Which makes sense because they're insane.
Yeah, they were like, we're not going to borrow the storylines of those. It's going to go its own direction now.
And Warrior Within, the second of the Sands of Time trilogy, is like often derided for its like really edgy late 2000s like metal soundtrack.
Well, I gotta say,
Godsmack was like the highlighting title track in that game.
Oh boy. But yeah, I watched the end of this movie and I go like, what could possibly happen? Like, it's just going to be they find another magic artifact or something. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's for the best that this didn't do super well.
They have to go back in time and fight some gods.
Yeah, it's gonna be, or oh god, like parallel reality, multiverse stuff, maybe.
Or it hurls them into the future, and then they can save a lot of money.
Oh my god, it's the voyage home. What strange land is this?
California.
Yeah, Los Angeles, 2012. Huh? No, that's how the second movie would end to go into the third movie, right? That's your
we'll talk about it, but like that was sort of the setup for the Assassin's Creed franchise as video games.
Oh, I was gonna say that is kind of the thing about the Assassin's Creed games, but that's baked into it from the jump.
Sure,
and we'll talk about
also kind of a time travel story, but not really.
It's like emotional time travel.
Yeah.
Or psychic time travel, I guess you would say. It's interesting.
You're reliving the memories of an ancestor.
It's interesting. We'll talk about that and how bad that movie is.
Poor Fast.
Let's talk about
another guy who just can't catch a break. But anyway.
He's finally seems to be settling into a thing, which is just play spies. He's really good at playing spies. Because I love The Agency, the show he's on, and people should watch Black Bag. There's another movie to watch. Black Bag. Don't sleep on that movie. So good. So good. Anyway, if you're me, I should say, because it's all about intricate I understand not everyone loves the John le Carré. Someone at this table is a spy. It's not like a Mission Impossible or James Bond movie.
Spies?
It's a lot of Michael Fassbender going, that's interesting that they would go down that alley. That must mean they're a spy. If you think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is edge of your seat tension, then you'll love Black Bag. A movie I have watched so many times. I live for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, of course. That's my shit, man. What are you talking about? Your shit is dragons and magic spells and stuff, and mine is all about clearance levels and plans for weapons. Yeah.
You like the threat of nuclear annihilation as a concept hanging over a head of a gritty spy thriller.
Yep.
I love the threat of nuclear annihilation in the form of a giant lizard that breathes fire.
This is true. Man, I just this will date this a little bit, but not too much. I just saw, of course, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning as we're recording this. I would love a Mission Impossible movie where it's Ethan Hunt trying to stop Godzilla instead of nuclear weapons. Or, my God, the Syndicate has a kaiju.
Ethan, they have a giant radioactive lizard.
The only man we
Your
can
mission,
send after.
should you choose to accept it?
Good morning, Mr. Hunt. This is Godzilla. You and your team are assigned to capture. Yeah. Barring that kill
sort of
Godzilla.
The plot of the original, like, American, before the 1998 film, there was a like planned American Godzilla
I listened
film.
to the best movies never made about that, and I did go, is that the Godzilla movie I wrote somehow? Where they were like, what if James Bond was in a Godzilla movie? And I'm like, oh, that's the best idea I've ever heard. I still think someone should make that movie. They kind of do. Monarch is a little bit. Kaiju Spies a little bit. But not. I want to go full on IMF versus the Kaiju. Because at the end of the movie, Ethan Hunt would convince Godzilla to team up with him to stop the Syndicate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be the thing. Is he has to skydive off of Godzilla.
Honestly, that's kind of the plot of the entire Marvel Godzilla comics is S.H.I.E.L.D. v. Godzilla.
Which is a cool idea.
And eventually he has to fight the Avengers.
Yeah. Well, obviously. So let's talk about a couple of things. Greatest film critic of all time, in my opinion. Roger Ebert did see this movie. What do you think? Do you think he liked this?
I think he probably disliked the movie, but liked Gemma Atherton.
She's a treasure, is what she is. Let's see here. What did old Raj think of it? He gave it 2 out of 4 stars. Title of his review: Is this a dagger of time I see before me?
Ah, very clever.
He basically is like, I don't know. It's kind of fun. He kind of said what I said, which is like, it's kind of fun, but not as fun as it should be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's just like, and he's like, at a certain point, he talks about like tiresome CGI sequences, and you just go like, I don't care anymore who has the magic dagger. It just sort of, I will say, unlike the other Pirates of the Caribbean attempts by Disney, this one is blissfully like an hour 50. Because like both John Carter and Lone Ranger are like 2.5.
And you can cut that down to like an hour 45 if you cut out the credits.
And he does specifically mention, he says Gemma Arterton resembles a gorgeous still photo in a cosmetics ad. And that's about as much character as she has here. Yeah, he talks about Jake Gyllenhaal looks like the cover of Muscle Mag. She looks like a cosmetics ad. And he's like, Alfred Molina's fun, but doesn't have anything to do. So he didn't hate it, but is like, and of course has to be like, and I've never played the video game and I never will because those are stupid.
Well, okay. I was about to say we have very similar opinions to Roger Ebert on this one.
We do on the movie specifically, but of course a big point was always just old man yelled at. Oh my God! Hold on, I'm just now looking at the Wikipedia. One of the editors on this movie is Michael Kahn, who edits all of Spielberg's movies. Well, all I can say is he probably did his best with what he was given. Because they're like, bring in Spielberg's editor, and they're like, yeah, he can't save it. Let's talk about how much of it. So this movie cost $200 million. Worldwide gross, 336.3. Like, just enough to, like, nobody's getting fired for it, but, yeah, no sequels.
But you know that ain't covering, like, merchandising rights and, like, any kind of... The Prince of Persia branded Slurpees that came out that summer...
God, did they? I can't remember if they did that, but it seems like a movie they would have done it for, right?
If they did one for G.I. Joe Retaliation, they did it for Prince of Persia.
Oh, I definitely had a Snake Eyes cup. I would always go all in on those. All right, Gorgone, so my question, as always, where did this land in the top 200 worldwide box office for 2010? As always, I will give you the top 5, which is all right. This is an interesting, we're in an interesting time period because we're still not yet at Marvel dominance. Number 1 movie of the year, Toy Story 3, made $1 billion.
Amazing film. Weep every time I watch it.
Beautiful movie. Number 2, a movie you definitely forgot made $1 billion, but we absolutely saw. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
Fuck, I always forget how much money
That made $1 billion. Isn't that crazy? For a movie
That
I
hurts.
think is not a disaster, but is real low on my Burton favorites.
It is teetering towards disaster, and the second one is a full-blown disaster.
The second one is unwatchable. The first one is, I rewatched it again along with the shout out to the fellas at Blank Check when they were doing Burton. It's okay, but it's not, once again, it is so low on my Burton. It's not his worst, because that's Planet of the Apes. Okay, number 3, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, a movie Mike Noah wish he directed instead. Number 4, Inception. Remember, that just ruled that summer. Number 5.
That was, I would call that, like, I realized that he had Batman under his belt at that point, but that was the movie that, like, made Christopher Nolan was like, oh, he can just make whatever.
That became the thing where it's like, oh, Nolan's the brand now, right? Like, you go to a Nolan movie, which is very much the case with that, and I can't wait for the Odyssey. Everything I read about that makes me more excited. I am so excited for that, because that's exactly like, oh, the guy who's going to make an epic poem into a blockbuster movie is Christopher Nolan.
Talk about, like, how do you make a sword and sandals movie, and that's like the sword and sandals,
or actually,
story.
as I should say now, Sir Christopher Nolan.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, he got Oppenheimer got him that knighthood. I saw Oppenheimer and it was deserving of a knighthood.
What was number 5?
Shrek Forever After.
God damn it! This movie is.
Yep, Shrek Forever After made $752 million.
Okay.
Iron Man 2 was number 7 that year, which is still big, but it just speaks once again. It's like Marvel doesn't own the world yet. All right, where did this movie land? Once again, it made, what did I say it made? 360 something?
Yeah, I'm going to say this is at a firm, like, 38.
Where is it? Hold on here. I'm sorry.
Not even on the list. No, that can't
No,
be.
that would be insane. Prince of Persia. This was 2010, right?
I thought so.
2010. Yeah. Where the hell is it?
This
Sorry.
was released in
because it definitely made more than the Owls of
May
Gahul.
28th, 2010.
It definitely made more than the Owls of Gahul, which came out that same year. The Zack Snyder's true masterpiece. Where the hell is it? Hold on. 2010. This is great podcasting. Prince of Persia.
The Sands of Time.
The Sands of Time. That's where I'm. By worldwide, 336. Okay, for whatever reason, it's not listed, and I don't fully understand why, but I can tell you where it should be. What did you guess that it was at?
38. Now, boy, am I way off.
Yeah, it's like 16th is what it should be. I don't know why it's not included. Disney's like, don't include it. No, I don't know. That's weird. But it should be between the Karate Kid remake with Jaden Smith and I love the weird company these movies have sometimes. And then just above Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan.
But below Tron Legacy.
Oh, because Tron Legacy rules. And we are recording this on the precipice of a new Tron, and I can't wait.
Oh, and also that's like 5 spots below Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, well, Clash of the Titans got a sequel. This didn't.
Oh boy.
That's telling.
Thankfully, blessedly beats out The Last Airbender.
Oh God. I mean, talk about unwatchable.
Ugh.
I've never actually seen all of it. I've only seen pieces because it just... And I don't have the love for the animated series you did, but it's just a bad movie, period.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've watched the Rift Tracks version, and that's almost unbearable.
It's a tough sit. It's just bad. Bad. Bad movie. Bad Shyamalan. Is there another kind? Sorry, that's, yeah. That's redundant. Bad Shyamalan. Unless it's Unbreakable, which is still great. And the sequel's terrible. Okay, let's get at it with some highs and lows.
Okay.
We'll start with a low.
The low is I love the video game. The movie is terrible. Jake Gyllenhaal is pretty and he's vapid, and I don't like things that look good.
No, that's not exactly where this is going, but here we go.
My game has become predicting these.
I know, yeah. This comes to us from Mad Max 4333. 4333. Title of the review, Prince of Persia. Loud, noisy, cliched, and forgettable. If I thought the overlong, frightfully dull Avatar, ooh, man after my own heart. All right, if I thought the overlong, frightfully dull Avatar contained and rehashed every Hollywood cliche ever used, albeit in blue, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time runs the gamut of every mindless Hollywood action feature effect, computerized or not, and even as an admittedly escapism event, it falls short of any intended mark. It is obvious there is little new under the Hollywood sun. Frankly, 1942's Arabian Nights did the plot much better, and Shemp Howard of Three Stooges fame surpassed Alfred Molina's deadly dull and ineffective attempt at humor. Jake Gyllenhaal, in spite of much daring-do stunts and macho posturing, is still not the virile stud hero that his handlers are trying to turn him into, and Arterton's cliched, bitchy dialogue becomes tedious after 10 minutes. It's a shallow waste of time from beginning to end, and how Ben Kingsley could keep a straight face through this loud, noisy romp is a testament to his enormous experience in front of a camera. 1 out of 10 stars.
He's a goddamn professional, that's how.
Yeah. He is a goddamn professional. I will say, it's interesting when he's talking about them trying to turn Gyllenhaal into hunky acting here. It made me think that I think when this movie came out, Gyllenhaal was in a very similar place to where I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is right now. Where it's another thing where it's like, why is this guy not the biggest thing?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. He's tailor-made for these, but keeps either ending up in stuff where he pops, but it's not his movie, and then the stuff that he headlines in is trash like Kraven the Hunter. Which is like not his fault. No one would have been good in it, but that hurts him as a leading man still.
Yeah. By the time he realized what was happening, the movie was made.
Right, yeah. And boy, can you feel the reshoots all over that thing. Brr, horrible movie. Did not think it could be worse than...
Did you actually see it?
I watched it on Netflix. I didn't see it in the theater,
Okay.
but I did watch it when it came on Netflix. And I got to say, I was shocked that it's way worse than Madam Web. Madam Web is at least like stupid and kind of enjoyable on that level. Like it's silly fun. Kraven the Hunter is boring. It's dull.
Okay.
It's just so... Oh, I hated it so much. Anyway, sorry. That's not what this is about. Let's go over to a high. This comes to us from Dracula 2005. Now, that's Dracula with a K.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't like that one bit.
Take a guess. What's the 10 saying?
The 10 is saying everyone needs to quit worrying so much.
That is a common refrain, yeah.
I don't know. This is probably like, I love the video games, and this is a great adaptation. I'm totally missing.
Well, let's check in with what Dracula's got to say. Went in with low expectations, ended up surprised. That's how a video game adaptation should look, is the title.
Oh, I thought that was the whole thing.
No, that's just the title. To be honest, I wasn't a big Prince of Persia fan. I haven't played the games, but I probably will now because the film is great. The movie is shot in great style, well adjusted to its time and era, and this means costumes, effects, traditions, everything.
Traditions. Traditions is the word you use there.
Traditions is what it says. The traditions of Persia? Okay. I have a friend who's waiting for this.
Do you want me to talk about the Assyrian Persian Empire and how it gave way to...
I don't.
No?
We don't
Okay.
need to go on for another 3 hours.
Okay.
I have a friend who's been waiting for this movie for years. We went in and he was totally blown away as well. I put in the away because I'm assuming this is a typo. Not my friend was totally blown in this movie. I'm guessing.
You don't know.
I'm assuming. And said there are more similarities with this game than he could have imagined. So its story is actually accurate and believable.
No. Stop it. Bad reviewer.
Accurate is wrong, and believable is just a weird word to use for this. But okay, so they hold on here. Okay, yeah. The acting was at a very high level, equal to the scale of the movie itself. I've liked Jake Gyllenhaal for a long time, since Donnie Darko, and thought he was great in Brokeback Mountain. But I never could have imagined he'll fit so good in a blockbuster movie like this. Gemma Arterton is also cool, as she is in Casino Royale. Correction from John here, she's actually in Quantum of Solace. Or Clash of the Titans, where she's actually one of the few things I liked. Man, she made no impression on me in Clash of the Titans. I could not tell you a damn. I have not seen that since we saw it in the theater, and I would probably remember
just tied to a rock so that they can unleash the Kraken?
I think that's the thing. Yeah, I said she might as well just be doing the same thing she does in this movie. But here she has more on-screen time and she shows her talent more fully, and that's a lot for a movie like this. Another thing that's not very common for a cash-making movie. I love this. This is one of those cash-making movies. That's not very common for a cash-making movie. What movie isn't? I always get on that. That is the thing I get on, by the way, when people talk about this movie just wanting to make money. Well, technically, every movie is wanting to make money, at least at the top end of it. Anyway,
that's why you put it in a theater.
Yeah, there are some pretty edgy, keep that in mind, and funny lines one could enjoy, especially in the hands of the leads of this movie. Once again, they did an outstanding job. I can't wait till the day that I see Sir Ben Kingsley as the good guy in a movie in such scale. I doubt it'll ever happen, but I hope it will. He was better than most of his villains, more convincing than before. I liked him. There was a little mystery as well. Who is the killer? Who's guilty? Many people could be responsible for what happened. I didn't expect such things and was left surprised by them too. The length of the movie is one of the many good things about it. It was long enough, but not too long, but perfect. I was a little bit disappointed at the ending of the movie. I don't like endings like this, but I haven't played the game, so that must be the reason for me to feel like this. Go see it for yourself, because I'm sure you won't be disappointed. I went in and enjoyed it. The best blockbuster summer movie this season. I'll see it again very soon with more of my friends, who definitely don't exist. I just feel like the amount of mention of Friends is concerning to me. My rating, 9 out of 10. What the heck? Sheer 10. I'm a fan now. 10 out of 10 stars, obviously.
Okay. What other movies came out in May of 2010 alone?
Well, obviously...
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, is a better movie than this. Say what you will.
Give Shrek Forever After.
I think it's more fun. I probably laughed more. That's the one that has Do the Roar, which I do think is funny.
How to Train Your Dragon is still in theaters at this point.
Well, How to Train Your Dragon is it? I will say, in this guy's defense, I'm on his IMDb now. He also gave 10 out of 10 to How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
Ooh, he also gave 10 out of 10 to the Benicio del Toro Wolfman. My man.
It's you and him, John, against the world.
Actually, both Campbell and Jones like that movie.
Okay.
That movie is very underrated, in my opinion. Anyway... that's Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. I don't think this is one you need to check out.
No, I would highly recommend the game, though.
Yeah.
The original Sands of Time game is a little tough to track down these days. I still have.
Hence why we probably need that.
Copy, but
probably need that remake that's definitely coming, right?
Yeah, sure.
Any day now.
Yeah.
Any day. Mike Gorgone told me any day now.
If there's one thing we know about Ubisoft, it's that they're a reliable production company that never cancels things out of hand.
Never. Not once ever. Obviously, we're being facetious.
Yes. The Sands of Time remake, as far as we know, is still happening, but there hasn't been any word on it since it was announced years ago. So everyone's like, is this still happening? Question mark.
Probably not. Answer.
Yeah.
But okay, so the next week's movie, though, God, I'm gonna regret the bad things I said about this, aren't I? Because next week I have to return to the mysteries of Silent Hill. Elliot Lewis will be back on the show for Silent Hill Revelation.
Like I said, John, we reached the summit, and now it's all downhill from here.
Oh God, well, Sean Bean's back to get more money. Talk about a guy who's in a lot of trash, but I love him.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, anyway. And Gorgone, we'll next see you for... Ooh, very exciting. Hitman Agent 47. Will the sequel be better? In my memory,
No.
It's not. But it's got Spock. So that's all that matters.
A Spock.
A Spock, one of 3 now. Probably my least favorite, but I still like him a lot.
Yeah.
I still think he's a good Spock. I really like what Ethan Peck is doing.
I
There's
agree.
your Trek talk for the week too. If I mentioned Bond and Star Trek, so I think I'm good.
Yeah. Gotta have these systems.
For what people expect. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Of course, we want to tell people to check out the Patreon page, though, which is patreon.com/slash
Punch Up End.
punch up ENT. And of course, where else can people check us out, Gorgone?
youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. And there, while you're there, you can check out all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, like we've mentioned before, Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. We've got May the Panel Be With You, where we talk about Star Wars comic books. We've got Punch Up Plays, where Elliot Lewis and I are playing through the Mass Effect franchise, as well as other sundry shows you can find on there. While you're there, please like, comment, subscribe. Those are all good things you could do on YouTube to help buzz that algorithm and help us out, get us out there to new viewers. It really does help us quite a bit.
Indeed. And keep posting those comments. We do read them, and it's much appreciated.
It gives us the warm, fuzzy feeling in our hearts that fills the howling void of darkness that is yawning above our heads.
Indeed. And with that, I think it's time to say that until next week, the case file is closed.